when I'm getting to the bag. Ay, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Ay, ay, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ay.
What is up, everybody? Obviously, we are editing in this little clip here, you guys. I have taken the day off, and we are not going to miss a beat, though, because just because I am trying to take a couple of days doesn't mean that the show takes a couple of days out there. But we this entire week, we have been doing market conditions reports out there. So again, this segment is powered by my friends over at DAT. It's This Week in Freight. And normally we just do lane breakdowns and lane analysis. And again, if you ever want that broken down on the show, I just need you to email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. I need shipping city, delivery city, and trailer type. And again, this is 100% viewer submitted, you guys. And I personally do this because I think it's very important to let people know how seasonalities actually work and how freight markets actually perform out there, at least from my seat and my experience. So today we are doing a flatbed market conditions report. And as you can see, and for any of you who move flatbed like I do, I'm 100% flatbed as a broker. Yes, we do some full truckload drive and stuff out there, but you guys get what I mean. My specialization is flatbed. And this is one of the most unique markets I've seen as a broker, especially within flatbed. So I'm looking at all of this stuff, and a lot of these lanes I move. Specifically, we move a lot of freight between southern Pennsylvania and the state of Florida, and it's been wild to see it actually pay more money to go out of Florida than it costs to go into Florida. I've actually never seen that in my career as a broker in flatbed. But if we flip this around, this is the thing I want people to look at here. Everything is tight in flatbed right now, very tight, right? And if it's not very tight, it's slightly tight or moderately tight. I want to say, though, that although this looks daunting, this falls 100% in line with the fact that it is flatbed season right now, right? For the most part, most of you guys, snow's melted, it's gone, ground's breaking, permafrost is completely gone, and people are actually out there starting to build. So that is why you see this like this right now, okay? And I want to be clear. Is it always like this where it's completely tight in every single market? No, but I would expect this in most years from the month of April through October. That is your typical flatbed season out there. So that is why you're seeing it. But again, if you look at the outbound market, it changes things, right? So essentially, as you're pricing stuff out there, anything going that you're picking up and going in, expect a higher price point right now. A lot of the outbound markets, and again, we're out there operating in some of these regions. Like we're very strong out west here as well. And I was very fortunate to land when we started our brokerage, our first customer that we started moving freight with was based on the East Coast. And that's why we do a lot of southern Pennsylvania down to Florida, because that's where a lot of their facilities are located. And we've built up a very strong presence out west here, essentially in the Western 11. We're seeing some early signs that align with what was going on at this time last year from a capacity and a pricing standpoint. But as you're starting to see, we move a lot out of Arizona up into Wyoming and Montana, Utah, Nevada, California, stuff like that. And it's pretty much been, there's trucks that are out there, but rates are a little bit higher overall. Not a little bit, I mean like exponentially on some lanes. But again, this goes in line with where we're at in flatbed season right now. So regardless of what you're doing, I want you to rest assured, there are still trucks that are out there. But again, you got to take this data that is shown on this heat map and explain that to your customers, because, again, not all markets are created equally. And I would argue that if you're sending trucks from Arizona into New Mexico right now, there's trucks for it. It just costs a little bit more money, but it's realistically only going to be a New Mexico-based carrier right now that is going to be taking that freight going in there. And I would say that that's pretty much, you take anything from a 500-mile radius around Albuquerque, we'll use, for example, the only people who are taking freight into the Albuquerque market right now are probably from Albuquerque or New Mexico, and they're looking to get their driver back home or back to their customer loads that are getting them out of that. So pay attention to that stuff, right? It's not that there aren't trucks out there. There are trucks out there still. There are trucks that are moving it. You just need to explain to your customers at times like, hey, this is going to be we got to find that New Mexico-based carrier. We'll just use that for examples. We've had those conversations with our customers, but bring that down to them. Let them know, like, hey, this is what's going on out there. Normally it's a tough market to get out of. So there's not excess capacity that are willing to go into it. Because again, if you look at Arizona and Southern California or Northern California, it's a tight market to a tight market, but there is a ton of trucks who run between that market. So not all lanes are created equally. Not all 500-mile runs are created equally. Have those conversations with your customers. But again, we're in flatbed season right now. None of the shippers who are moving flatbed freight don't have it consistently, so they're aware. But bring that information down to your customers. But that's going to be it for this segment. It's This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT. If you guys want your lane broken down on the show ever, email my team, podcasts@thefreightcoach.com. Now, let's get back to that interview. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. We are live. We are at the TIA Capital Ideas Conference, and we're going to be talking about pretty much what we're talking about at everything right now. But speed is the first thing that comes to my mind with today's guest and the company that he works for. And speed is everything. Speed will kill your business if you don't reply and everything else. So I have Mr. Rush Feldhacker.
Yeah.
I got it right. Oh my gosh.
Well, close.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's Rush Feldhacker.
Feldhacker. Gosh dang it.
Everyone puts the I in there.
Man, you can't be perfect all the time. All right.
Yeah.
So Rush, I appreciate you taking the time to join me today. And, since this is your first time on the show, I always like to start this out, man. How'd you get your start in freight? What brought you into this industry?
I was a Northwestern Mutual intern in college. And when the internship ended, my boss wanted to hire me to do insurance full time, and that wasn't for me. And then he told me that he signed somebody at this company and that they were making good money and I should check it out. So he connected me and I interviewed and I got the job at a company called Access America Transport. And for the first 2 weeks that I was there, I actually didn't know what we did as a business that made money. So one day I finally just pulled somebody aside, like, hey man, are the carriers paying us to get them loads? And once he explained it to me, it just, things happened from there. But since that time, I've been a broker for the better part of the last 16 years, and really all roles. So, once you fall into this industry, it's really hard to leave.
Yeah.
It's addicting.
No, it really is, man. So what was it about the freight tech side of things that was appealing to you? Because most, I know a lot of people transition into other roles inside of the industry, but most people who are brokers stay brokers, right?
Yeah.
Like they go up, they stay on the brokerage side of things. What was appealing about freight tech where you were like, I want to jump in and try that out?
I just think it's where things are going. I was lucky enough to work at some companies that had really good alumni networks with people that I've kept in really good contact with. And I've always just enjoyed helping people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the best salespeople are people that believe in their product and are genuinely out there trying to drive value for the people that they speak with and with their network. And having been familiar with this product, it just made all the sense in the world. I felt like my network could benefit from it. I felt like people outside my network could benefit from it. And so I'd had some knowledge of just the freight tech space from my time at a consulting firm. But, sometimes it's just good to learn and do something new.
No, I agree with that. And I think like a lot of people need to familiarize themselves with it. And especially when you have that proprietary frontline knowledge of how the industry actually works and to be able to go out there and apply it to the tech side of things. I think if you're not looking at that as a broker, I think that I'm not ever advocating for anybody to go out of business, but I think you might be obsolete in a lot shorter time frame than a lot of people are even thinking is even possible right now. Because, with freight being as old school as it is, and it's this is the way we've always done things, that I think now more than ever is going to be a death sentence to a lot of companies out there. It's like either you innovate and implement some of this technology, you're going to die.
100%. And I think it's hard for people to understand that, because if you look at what it was like being a broker in 2010 and 2020, it was effectively the same.
Yeah.
You're still sending faxes.
Yeah.
So then we get this COVID boom and the COVID fallout.
Yeah.
And people had to do more with less. And because of that, they actually started leaning into tech and trusting it. And it took what was a very antiquated industry, and everyone caught up pretty quickly. There's still some people out there that, hey, this is a fad. It's going to go away. It's not. Yeah. It's not. I know there's always a big bad wolf that, there's some threat to how you do things, and people, kind of dismiss them. But if you dismiss automation, it'll be obsolete pretty quick.
No, I agree with that, Rush. And it's like I've been doing, I don't want to make it sound like I read about AI and automation every single day, but I've been doing a lot more reading on it in the last 6 months. And I see a world where freight brokerage, it will exist, but it's going to look vastly different than how it's done right now. And I can already see it. And, one of the books that I've read recently, it's called The Algorithm. And it was Elon Musk's right-hand man at Tesla. And all of the synergies between the old school auto industry and freight are alarmingly close. And it's like they were doing stuff for so long the certain type of way. Nobody thought it would ever be done any way differently. And then Tesla came along and completely flipped the automotive industry on its back. That's where I see things now in freight. I drew all those parallels, and it's like, why would a customer want to work with a broker if they got to wait more than 3 minutes to get a rate quote back?
Right.
Why would a customer work with a broker if they have to constantly call them for an update and there's no automated tracking that they can send updates every single way in? And it's like, if you, and those are just two very basic things. If you're not even thinking at that level, there's going to be companies out there who have way more money than you do, who are already implementing it. They're going to crush you.
Yes.
And it's like, at that point, it's like, it's not even about the rate that you can provide. It's the experience that the customer gets when they work with that broker who has automated a large portion of their operation.
The industry's saturated. Even after a 3-year dip, I mean, it's always going to be a saturated space.
Yeah.
I think personal connection will always drive the space. But people are going to be spending time doing more high value tasks. The busy work at this point is pointless. That you should be getting that off of your reps plate. If you take brokerage A and they've automated the automatable, and their reps are spending time building moats around their customers and building relationships and trust. You have brokerage B that would like to say that they're doing that, but their reps are setting appointments, building loads, pricing all their freight manually. Which brokerage is going to win?
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. I think it's going to look vastly different. I think the brokers of the future, when we talk 20 years from now, are engineers with sales skills that know how to run AI models, know how to run their tech stack well, and then know how to manage exceptions. But the job's changing a little bit.
Yeah, and I can already see it, right? And I know it's not as widespread. And I think from a time perspective, a lot of people's saving grace is it's ultimately how your customers operate and what their automation adoption looks like is going to drastically sway your opinion on that, because there's some very large shippers that are out there that still operate off of spreadsheets, right? So it's there's a lot of adoption that needs to happen, but it's happening, and it's only one decision away before it's this is the requirement that's out there.
You're 100% right. And sometimes people feel like, oh, if I'm automating, well, I'm not giving my customer that human touch. Okay, well, if you are manually pricing all of your spot portals, you're probably responding to around 10% of the loads offered to you. And you're doing it manually, and it's taking a lot of time. Okay, well, you can automate that. And what the customer sees is, oh, these guys used to quote 10% of our freight. Now they're quoting 80% of our freight. They used to respond in 20 minutes to quotes. Now they're responding in seconds to quotes.
Yeah.
So even though you're putting in less labor, the customer's having a much better experience. Instead of you doing that, you can actually be having conversations with the customer around the data and what you're seeing in the market.
Yeah, I think people overestimate the word relationship with customers and the amount that they think that they are expecting of you. I have great relationships with my customers, but you know what they don't want, Rush? Me calling them 13 times a day just to see how their day is going. They got a job to do. They're we're at a point in time now where it's you have to be able to effectively operate at a high level where you are adding so much more value than you're used to. Because again, data, there is no proprietary data anymore. You can call that a subjective statement. We all have access to the same rates. We all have access to the same technology. We all have access to the same carriers. There's nothing. I use C.H. Robinson because they're the biggest. There is nothing C.H. Robinson is fundamentally doing as a broker that we don't have access to.
Yes.
5 years ago, did not look like that. Today's day and age, we are all very they might have a little bit more predictive pricing compared to the regular market, but I guarantee it's within a couple of pennies of what we're quoting.
Yeah. Yeah. The only difference probably being their buying and their carrier relationships.
Yep.
But again, those are high value tasks that
Yep.
you need to have the time to do. I think 3 years ago, tech in the space was pretty good. Now I think it's getting a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 years ago, it was kind of hit or miss. So I would sign up a tech provider at my last company, and 50% of the time we were really happy. The other 50% of the time, probably a deal
smoke
with
and mirrors.
Exactly. So you didn't quite know what you're going to get. A lot less smoke and mirrors. The companies are maturing. The new entrants know what they're doing. I think a big differentiator are those companies, like you said earlier, that are building around brokers, former brokers that are coming in. They have just such a huge advantage over those that don't. I think a lot of it is just the value set that the brokers have. If you're selling to brokers, brokers expect you to be available 24/7, quick to respond, hard work ethic. And if you come from tech, I'm not saying that that's not a hardworking industry, but the culture of it's a lot different. And the people in the brokerage world, they're kind of set in their ways.
Yeah,
they have high expectations.
I agree. Brokers are set in their ways on a lot of stuff. And I also think that could be to a lot of businesses' detriment coming up here. Like, again, I see a world now where you only need, I think we're very close from some brokerages having a $10 million per seat revenue multiplier in their business. I truly feel like with where automation is right now, I could see that in a couple of years, right? I'm not going to be like it's going to be in the next 12 months or 18 months, but I see it now more than ever, man. And there's no need. You don't need 13 people doing a job anymore, right? So it's like you can build that up and get it down to 2 or 3 core people. And then if they have the right work ethic, because to me as a leader, that's the only thing I can't teach you. Either you want it or you don't. And when you get that right environment in there, you're going to see people run circles around it. And then again, if we have a lower head count and our overhead is down compared to everything else, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to go to our customers and I'm going to lower my rates. I'm going to crush you at that
100%.
point.
You're 100% right. When I think about the automation in the space and getting to that $10 million mark, there's so many things that are completely pointless for your reps to be doing. And they can actually spend that time right now to get that number way up. But we're going to move to an era where, especially when we get out of this capacity-driven market, whether it's long-term, whatever, but rates are up, it's caused by capacity. When capacity loosens up again and some of the automation tools around carrier procurement become a lot better and carriers are a lot more receptive to them, I think that number gets a lot more realistic because there's so much time and effort that goes into that piece of carrier acquisition, carrier compliance, carrier relationship building. When that actually is 90% automated across the board, the revenue per seat is going to go up immensely. But I think a tool like Tabi on the sales side is also at this point just table stakes. Your ability to quote your customer is of huge value. You figured it out over time. It's taken a ton of energy. It's taken a ton of trial and error, but you have it honed in. And our tool can ingest everything that you know and everything you want and any sort of pricing logic. We take it, we deploy it at scale. We're quoting shipments in seconds. Some of my most high value employees in the past literally spent their entire day on spot boards. You don't have to do that anymore. We can quote things how you would quote them in an automated fashion. But it's these types of automation tools that are just super common sense and are becoming table stakes that are really going to drive up that revenue per seat.
But let's talk about that in regards specifically to the market. Like with today's day and age, well, not today's day and age, excuse me. We're sitting here at a time when what you quote today might be too cheap in 24 hours because of how fast the market is. And again, if you've never worked in a carrier market before, and you're in for a very rude awakening. I truly feel that way. I've seen it. I've been doing this job for a long time. I know how to handle this stuff, right? But I don't know if a lot of brokers are. So it's like, how are you instilling that confidence out there? Like, hey, this rate is going to be good in 24 hours.
And it's more about providing that broker with the tool to be able to have an effective pricing logic for that customer and putting in parameters around lead time, putting in adjustments around the day of the week it picks up, around the facility. It's just really understanding your data and being armed with your data. I've been at 4 brokerages, both large and small. We have never been able to accurately capture our quoting data. We tell them, put it in the CRM. They never do. And the data that you have from quoting is crazy.
Yeah.
This customer sent us this lane 80 times the spot in the last month. Well, why don't we try to convert that to contract? There's so much that you can do with it. So when you talk about like, how do you make sure you know that you're protected from the ever-changing prices, there's going to be characteristics of a load that drive that. And it's important that you study the data that's now available to you to be able to make those adjustments and be able to be set up for success.
Yeah, I think understanding how freight markets actually work is like, it should be table stakes, excuse me, but it's not at all. And you brought up days of the week. That's like the outside of the miles, it's the number 2 thing that I look at is what day of the week is this shipping. Because if it's 500 miles and has to pick on a Thursday and deliver on a Monday for whatever reason out there, you better not be quoting what you think it is for a next day delivery that's out there. So it's like there is, and that's why I look at it as so many customers operate differently. Like there's still an opportunity for you to ease into automation where it's not like the next 6 months it's going to completely upend it. But I look at it as a carrier market. Like we had one lane in particular here and we quoted it out. We move this lane often, right? Like we have core carriers on it, but this one had it was a multi-drop load. We bid it out, got it. We had a fair carrier rate on it. Well, unfortunately, that guy didn't get unloaded in time to make it, so we had to recover it. And the market, it swung $600.
Yeah,
just like that, right? And the day of the week, everything matters. So it's like there's a ton of parameters that come in, and I'm bringing it up now, especially in the carriers market, where it's like you better have your strategy dialed into how this industry actually operates. Otherwise, you're going to bid something today, your rate might be off by like literally $600, like I had just mentioned. If it's a same day, last minute recovery.
Yeah, I think the periods of market flips are, I always thought, the most fun time to be a broker.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if you can be ahead of the curve, the arbitrage there is just ripe for the picking. You can make large gross profit on individual shipments. It's awesome. But you have to be smart and you have to have that data. And in the past, it's just been like, well, my gut's telling me this.
Yeah.
I'm hearing this, I'm thinking this. No, you're armed with data now. Make those decisions. And I think with all this automation, like the tools are great, but I think the biggest threat to your brokerage, even if you're a tech forward brokerage, is how resistant your team is to change.
Yeah.
You can bring in the best tool ever, but if your reps aren't going to believe in it and try to like be good at that tool and develop that skill set, then you're just wasting money.
Yeah.
And so that's something else to keep in mind as we discuss this. Like, have you built a culture at your company that we're going to be on the front lines of tech, automation, and AI in this space? And if you're coming into our team, you need to be willing to accept change and help implement and develop processes to make us really powerful with these tools. Like that's the culture that you need to be driving intentionally if you're a brokerage leader today. But if you're just kind of like, I hope the culture's good, you're going to face a lot of issues.
So let's talk about change management there. How do you balance that out? You and I have both been in this industry for a long time now. How do you sell that down the pipeline to your team that have maybe not done anything differently for the last 15 years?
It's hard. You have to have a couple of advocates or champions and some really good test cases. You want to crawl, walk, run, as cliche as it sounds. Crawl with the reps you know will understand it, see the value in it, get it. Their results will drive buy-in for the next round of reps.
Yeah.
And then as the organization just has success, it rolls out to the whole team. That's how I've had the most success doing it. And I've bombed TMS implementations. I've bombed other implementations, but it's just getting buy-in. Like, how do you get buy-in? And sometimes it's involving them in the decision-making process.
Yeah.
If you're looking at an automation tool and you run a brokerage, let the people that are sitting in the seats in the demos and find out what's important to them and what scares them, what they like. If they feel like they have skin in the game, like you're going to have your champions for that product.
Do you think a lot of companies make the mistake of like changing their compensation package around this as well? Because it's like, I look at it as a sales rep. The second you cut my ability off to make money for you, I don't want anything to do with that, right? So it's like, do you think that this is where a lot of companies can get a leg up on their competition by like talking about compensation? You're like, I will put this out here because I've said it numerous times. I will never have cap commissions for my sales reps. Like I will never make it harder for you to make money because I actually look at that as like, that's a negative for my company overall. Yeah. Do you think that that's one of those things where it's like when they hear rating, right? And I'm not saying Tabi specific, but like they hear rating, faster, this, more money, everything. And then they're like, wait a second, why would I do all of this if I'm not going to make more money?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And commissions should never be capped. That's something I'm very passionate about. We could have a whole other podcast on this. But yes, especially when you talk about pricing automation through Tabi. Before we do an engagement with you, we're going to understand some of your data on some of the larger shipper platforms. how many shipments have you missed? We're finding that non-Tabi users inside of some of the larger platforms, on average, are quoting around 10% of the loads offered to you. A Tabi user, it's around 76%.
Yeah.
Those 24% of missing quotes, we don't actually think you should be using our product for that.
Yeah.
There's load complexity in those shipments, whether they're overdimensional, have 5 stops, or hazmat, remote regions. Like there's definitely things, hey, you should be quoting these. But back to your point, yes, if you can convince a sales rep, like, hey, you're quoting 10% of the loads available to you, let's quote an additional 66%.
Yeah.
And the pushback is like, it's going to be loads I don't want to win. I don't know that we can make money on them. I don't have confidence we can do this. Okay. Give your customer an option, man. Like, there aren't bad lanes. There's bad rates, right?
That is it. There is a truck for every load in America as long as it pays the right price out there. And, you know, it's like I look at it is I can see some people's apprehensions when they don't have the coverage, right? Like, it's like, hey, if we win more, like, we're already stress covering the amount of volume of freight that we're doing right now. That's one thing. But again, it's like, I think more people would be surprised at how much customers are willing to pay if you're willing to actually provide a rate for it, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's so much information that's out there where you don't have an excuse to not quote some stuff,
right?
You know, and it's like, quote high. Like, you're not going to lose a customer for quoting $7 a mile on a load, for hypothetical example here.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and set that expectation up front with the customer. Like, hey, I might not always be the cheapest, but I will 100% service your loads and give you honest communication. Sometimes my price will be higher than everybody else because I know where I need to be in that specific instance. They want that option. Yeah. Friday at 4 o'clock, they want to go home and see their family. They got this hot load on the board, and nobody wants to send them a rate because they don't want to offend the customer. Yeah. The customer wants somebody to send them a rate at $10,000 so they can get the hell out of the office. But yes, like with Tabi, you can customize how you set up any of these quotes. We'll make sure your logic is super honed in. And a big part of that is the onboarding and implementation process. We recently hired who is probably the best user of our product of all time. And she's come aboard, and her job is like, we're going to train you on how to use the product, but now she's going to help make sure you're dangerous with it. Yeah. Like, what are the tips and tricks that are really going to drive huge ROI for you?
What is one of the biggest pricing mistakes that you think brokers have made? And I just, talking from your experience here, what is one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're pricing out freight?
Taking too long. First to quote wins, like 35% of the time, or something crazy. All that time you spend in DAT or truck stop or green screens, and you're analyzing the trend lines. Like, okay, cool. You might be $15 more accurate, but you could have quoted it a ballpark within a minute, and the customer's like, done, off my plate, moving on to the next one. Yeah. And you see it with the new hires, right? Yeah. Hey man, like, I got this quote at 9 a.m. this morning, like, still struggling with it. What do you think I should quote it? It's like, it doesn't matter. You should have quoted it 3 hours ago. So yeah, speed to respond.
Dude, I'm right there with you. And I say this all the time with my team as well. It's like, there is no complex algorithm that we're trying to figure out here. Like, get them a rate, get it to them quick. If we're off, all right, worst case scenario, we lose money. Yeah. Like, that's literally all it is. It's just money. And if you're using all the data that's out there, right? Like, you use DAT, you use any of the pricing systems that are out there, it's all very accurate. At this point, it is very accurate. Yeah, you might be off if it's a last minute truck in hand, get me a truck in an hour rate. That happens. But those instances are so rare. Like, you just need to be quick in everything. And what you see over time, lanes don't change as much as people want to sell you on the fact that lanes change. Mm-hmm. If your pricing fluctuates every time you quote, you are failing as a broker. There is so much more consistency that is out there, but most people don't want, because they don't want to do that. They don't want to buy that. They just want to go out there and find the cheapest truck, do whatever, increase their profit margins. I get all of that. Customers and carriers want the exact same thing: consistency. They want consistent freight. They want consistent rates. That is it.
Yep, you're not wrong. And they want you to communicate bad news before they find out on their own.
Yeah, dude, that's it, right? Like, as a broker, we're a communications company that just happens to move freight. Yeah. That's it. That's as complex as it is. Good, bad, or indifferent. They need to know what's going on. They need to know more about what's going on when shit hits the fan than anything. And that is where I think that's the separator between good and great in this industry is the ones who do not hesitate when something goes wrong to pick up the phone, fix the problem, go to your customer and deliver that solution. Everybody's phone and email tends to stop working when there's something happening.
And who's going to do that better? The person who's quoting is automated and their appointments are automated and their load building is automated, they're probably going to be pretty good at relaying bad news in a timely manner. The guy that's in a cradle to grave model doing everything manually, that's drowning, it's not because he's providing poor customer service. He's just not in a position to win. And to your earlier point about losing money, if your brokerage isn't losing money on 5 to 10% of loads, you're doing it wrong. It's very accurate, but at the end of the day, it's all speculation, right? Correct. And you win some, you lose some. You know, you lose a little, you win a lot. You make your money on that account over a long-term transactional, or long-term relationship approach, not a one-off transactional approach. So, like, who cares if you lose money? Like, as long as you're not doing it too often.
I know what you mean.
Tabi customers will lose money on loads. It'll happen less when people are quoting it manually. But it's just, I mean, this is the game that we play.
Yeah, it is, man. We're gamblers at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Rush, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no.
How does anybody reach out to you, though, to find out more about what you got going on?
Yeah, look me up on LinkedIn, and then just email me. Would love to have any sort of freight-related chat with you. I geek out on this stuff, but my email is rush@tabiconnect.com. And thanks for having me on, man. This is awesome.
No, absolutely, Rush. Thank you. That is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys can't find Rush or Tabi out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with them. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the